G'day, I'm Warwick Schiller and welcome to the Principles of Training. I came to America from Australia in 1990 to learn how to train reining horses, and for a number of years I learned a lot of really good techniques, but it wasn't until I learnt the principles behind those techniques that I thought my program really started to come together. What I want to do in this series is talk to you about the different principles of training. I want to show you some techniques that fall under those principles. I want to show you techniques that I've learnt from some of the best horsemen in the world, and I also want to show you some techniques that I invented based on the principles that I learnt from other guys. But before I do that, I want to tell you how this whole thing started for me, and it really started, I went to a reining clinic in 1997 and I saw a technique there that I just thought was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and so I put that in my little bank of techniques, and then I went to a reining clinic probably 6 months later by another really good reining trainer, and I learnt several techniques there that I put in my little technique bank. And around the same time I got really interested in the whole horsemanshipy side of stuff, starting those young, I wanted to learn how to start young reining horses a little bit easier, and so I looked into the whole Ray Hunt colt starting sort of stuff, and I learned some really good techniques there too, and so I had this bank of techniques that I really liked at the time. And one day I realized that, every single one of those techniques falls under the same principle. And so right about then I kind of thought, if I ever get good enough to start teaching people, I'd really like to teach them about the principles behind the techniques and not just the techniques. The very first principle I discovered that covered all those techniques I'd been using was making the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy. And that saying's been around for a long time, and I had heard it a lot before that. Ray Hunt used to say, make the wrong thing difficult and the right thing easy. And I'd heard it a lot, and I don't think, I know I didn't understand, I didn't fully grasp it. And I, at clinics a lot around the world, I'll say, has anybody ever heard of make the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy? And a lot of people will put their hand up, but not too many people understand it. And I could go on with episodes and episodes of techniques that fall into that category, that principle, and I'll show you quite a few of them later on. But today what I want to do is tell you about the first couple of techniques that I learnt that were real eye-openers for me. So today I'm going to demonstrate these techniques on my little friend Bundy here. Bundy's a 4-year-old. We've had him since he was a yearling. When he was 2, he was in a round pen and was playing and just kicked the round pen and fractured his P2, so his pastern bone on this near side hind foot. And at the time the vet said, well, you're probably going to have to put him down. There's a chance the surgery will work. And so, I couldn't put him down, so we did the surgery on his pastern. It's got a plate and a screw in it, and they fused his P2 and P1 bone on this side. So he had been slated to be a reiner. I don't think he's going to be a reiner because of that, but he's a pretty cool little guy, so he's probably going to be able to do a lot of different things. He's pretty green at the moment, a lot of time off because of his foot, and I'm gone a lot, but I think he's far enough along I can show you this technique. So where this technique happened was I went to a Randy Paul clinic, and Randy Paul's an amazing horse trainer. He's won the NRHA Futurity, the reining Futurity. He's won the world's greatest horseman, great cow horse trainer. He's the son of a great horse trainer. His brother Jimmy is a great horse trainer. And I went to a reining clinic of Randy's in 1997, and when it came time for the spinning portion of the reining clinic, the first guy that Randy said, okay, bring your horse out here and let's see him spin, was a guy who used to train saddlebreds, and he had this fully trained reining horse that he bought just for fun. I think he took him home and stopped him and spun him maybe a little bit too much, but he bought the horse out, and Randy said, well, let's see him spin. And this guy took his hand and pulled on the reins and stuck his spur in this horse's belly, went cluck, 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 and that horse went step, 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 step. It was the world's slowest spin. And Randy said to him, whoa, 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 stop, whoa, whoa, what are you doing? You're doing way too much. He said, what I want you to do is don't use your voice and don't use your leg. I want you to take your hand and move it over slowly, okay? If he doesn't spin when you ask him to turn, kick him with your foot till he does turn, and when he turns, just put your hand back down in the middle of his neck. And this guy said, well, if I do that, he'll stop. And Randy said, well, if he does stop, we'll repeat the same thing over again. So this guy asks his horse to turn, it doesn't turn. He kicks him and he starts to turn. The guy puts his hand back, it stops. So he moves his hand, the horse doesn't turn, the guy kicks him, he starts to turn, he goes, stop. Do it again, stop. Do it again, stop. Do it again, stop. Do it again. And they repeated that for quite a while until this guy could ask the horse to spin, and when he put his hand back, the horse would just keep spinning. And they did that for a little while, and so they haven't really kicked him while he's been going, and they haven't clucked to him yet. And they did that for quite a while, and then Randy said, okay, go ahead and ask him to turn. And this horse, the guy asked him to turn, and this horse started to spin way faster than he ever spun at the beginning, and there's no cluck and no leg. And then Randy said to this guy, go ahead and cluck once. And this guy clucked once, and this horse went and spun 1,000,000 miles an hour. And the guy stopped and went, wow. And Randy said, see, you just were helping him too much. And that's the whole wrong thing hard, right thing easy. That's the first time I saw that the technique that fell under that principle, and I didn't realize at the time what it was. But if you think about it, your horse doesn't learn from pressure, he learns from the release of pressure. Whatever he's doing when you let go is what he thinks is a good idea. And so if you think about what the mistake that fellow was making, I'd been making it up to that point in time, and a lot of people make that mistake, is they ask their horse to spin, so they pull on the reins, and they probably kick with their foot, and the whole time the horse is spinning, they're pulling on the reins and kicking with their foot, and then when they want to stop, what do? They stop pulling and stop kicking. So that horse is thinking, if I can figure out how to stop, that's where all the pressure will go away. Whereas what Randy had this guy do was get the horse to figure out, if I keep going, that's where the pressure will go away. And so I'm going to try to show you that here on Bundy. Now Bundy's not a finished reining horse like that one was, but and he can probably do, he can do half a spin, maybe he can do a full spin, like I said, Bundy's quite green, but I could walk over here and just from a walk here ask him to turn, and he can just step. Okay, he can maybe do it a little better than I thought he could. But that's about all I've done with him so far, and I probably haven't ever done 2 turns with him. What I've done is a lot of half turns, walk out, half turns, walk out, but I think he's far enough along to show you how this worked. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask him to turn, but right then I was still asking him to turn when he was moving. What I'm going to do this time is do exactly what Randy did with this guy. So I'm going to ask him to turn, and then I'm going to let go. When I let go, he's going to walk off. So that tells you that's really what his intention is when he's turning. When he's turning, he's really thinking, boy, I'd like to walk off. I don't really want to be here. I think he thinks the turn is a place of a bit of pressure, okay? So I'll show you what he tends to do. Now I'm going to do what Randy did. So Randy said, go ahead and ask him to turn. Bump with your foot a little bit. When he starts to turn, let go. Now he's left, put him back in the turn and let go. And now he's left, put him back in that turn and let go. And now he's left, put him back in that turn and let go. He leaves the turn, put him back in that turn and let go. And there we go, Bundy. Very good. Right now I don't have an outside leg, I don't have an inside. Now he leaves the turn, put him back in that turn, let go. So right now I don't have an outside leg, an inside leg. My weight's not telling him to go, my reins aren't telling him to go. Oh, he's going to quit on me. I should have stopped earlier, but I was too busy talking to you guys. I wait till he's turning. So he was wanting to stay in it, so I stopped right then. But can you see right then, it didn't take him very long to figure that out. Initially he thought, I want to leave. And think about, why would he want to leave? Because he thinks there's pressure in the turn. After a while he went, oh, all I have to do is stay here and the pressure will stay away from me. And so if you think about making the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy, that principle, if you want to break it down into pieces, the first thing you have to do, and that's hard for all of us because we're all control freaks, is you have to let them make a mistake. You might notice right then, I let him fall out of that turn as many times as he wanted to fall out of it. That's the mistake. You have to allow them to make the mistake. That's the big part, and I will show you later on in the series, I'll show you 1,000,000 different versions of this. The second technique that I saw that I thought was really cool was, I went to a Del Hendricks clinic in 1998. Del Hendricks is an amazing reining trainer and has won the Reining Futurity twice. And Del showed me an exercise to teach those horses to want to circle. Just like Randy's technique was teaching those horses to want to spin, Dells was teaching those horses to want a circle, and the circle to a reining horse is a little bit like the cow to a cutting horse. If you put a cutting horse on a cow, he's supposed to work that cow until you take him off it. And it's the same thing with these reining horses. When you put them on a circle, they should basically stay circling until you ask them to do something else. So before I show you that technique to teach these horses how to circle or want to circle, I'm going to show you the finished product here, what it should look like in the end. And for that I'm going to ride my wife's horse, Petey. He's a 9-year-old gelding that she shows in the reining. And so these reining horses, you know, we've put out some cones here so you could actually see the outside of my circle. So those cones should be the outside of my circle. So I should circle right just inside those. And these reining horses, when you lope off on them in a circle, they should just basically stay in that circle on a loose rein. I'll just lope off on Petey here. I just keep my hand down and ride around here. Petey should just cruise around on the inside of those cones. I'm not really steering him. Once you put him in a circle, they should just stay in the circle. Now, if any point in time I want to take him off the circle and go somewhere else, I could. But I can also very easily put him back over here on this circle. Okay, it's something all reining horses learn how to do, is just circle when you ask them to. You know, they do it so, they learn how to do it so much and learn how to do it so well. I'm probably sure I could probably, come here Petey, I could probably pull this thing off and just cruise around there with the rein hanging around his neck, and it should look about the same. So I just cruise around here. Petey should just cruise around this circle like this. So that's kind of the finished product right there. So I'll now dig Bundy out again, and I'll show you the technique that Dell showed me that follows the principle of making the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy to teach the horse how to do that. So I'm back on Bundy now, and I'll show you how to do this exercise that Dell showed me to teach those horses how to want to stay in that circle. But there's something I want to explain about making the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy first, okay? A lot of people tend to think that you make the wrong thing hard by making them terrified of the wrong thing or really getting after them in the wrong thing. And if you think about, that's not the case, but if you think about what was happening in the spin version, when the guy was trying to make that horse spin, he was pulling on the reins and kicking with his foot at the same time, okay? In order to correct that, he didn't use any more pressure than that. He didn't, making the wrong thing hard and the right thing easy does not involve hitting them over the head with a stick and, you know, poking them in the eye or something or other. You know, it's nothing like that. It's really not using any more pressure than you would normally use. It's just being very strategic about how you do it, okay? So it's the same thing here. A lot of people, when their horse is in a circle, they are, come here, and they're using their reins and their legs and trying to hold that horse in the circle, okay? I'm not going to use any more pressure than that. I'm actually going to use probably less pressure than that. I'm only really going to steer with one rein, but I'm going to be very strategic about where I apply that pressure and where I release that pressure. Now you might notice I'm riding Bundy here in a hackamore. I'm a very non-denominational tack sort of a guy, so it's not like, oh, he's a hackamore guy or whatever. I mean, I just like riding him in a hackamore. You saw I rode Petey before in a shank bit. That's the bit Petey shows in. You know, I start all the young horses in a rope halter or a side pull. I'll ride them in that for quite a while. Then I'll go to a snaffle. I may ride them in the hackamore, but it's try not to get too wrapped up at any point in time in what sort of tack someone's using. You know, it's the same thing with all these principles of training. It doesn't matter what discipline you're doing, the principles behind things are the important part. So anyway, come on Bundy, we'll go ahead. And so like I said, Bundy's pretty green and he's going to canter around here with his head stuck in there. I'm not worried about it. The only thing I'm worried about right now is teaching him to canter around this circle. Now, he hasn't been out here with the cones, and I don't mean that to say, oh, he's really good because he's not spooking at the cones, but I haven't done this circle exercise with him before, and I haven't ridden around with the cones out here, so just in case he starts getting good at it, don't think he's following the cones around, because like Petey, we don't ever have the cones out here. So the basis of this exercise is, this circle here is the safety zone. This is the comfort zone. It's just like the spin. While ever that horse is in the spin, you're going to leave him alone. when he goes outside the spin, you're going to apply pressure to him and put him back into the spin. It's basically the same thing. This circle right here is the object of what we want him to do. So that's the place he gets left alone. I'm not going to make any corrections in this circle. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask him to canter right now, and not steer him, just to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to ask him to canter, and he's just going to run off, and he's just going to cruise over here till he gets to the fence. Okay, he doesn't really know anything about that circle. Okay, so I just want to show that he hasn't been prompted. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask him to lope off on this circle. Okay, then I'm not going to steer. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask him to lope, and when he leaves that circle, see him outside that circle, I'm going to steer him all the way back into the center of the circle. So this is the safety zone here. This is the place he gets left alone. And then he's just going to cruise along, and he goes out this side of the circle, runs over that cone, and I'm just going to steer him back into the middle and go, no, this is where I'll leave you alone. I'm leaving you alone, I'm leaving you alone, I'm still leaving you alone. No, but if you go out here, I'm going to steer you back over here, and right here I'm going to leave you alone. Now it's going to take him a little while to figure out what's going on here, but after a while he'll realize when he gets out here, he gets pressure put on him until he goes back over there, and then for some strange reason it goes away. You know, some people tend to think that a reining horse, when they're loping a circle, is just kind of brain dead, and they're not really, they're just like being zombies. But really for me, when a reining horse is loping a circle, he's really thinking about, oh, right there, he just started to make that corner. He's outside these cones, I'll steer him back in. But that's the first time right then. Bundy kind of went along and he went, hang on, I think he might do it here. See, he's starting to turn right there? And now he's outside that circle again. I'm just going to steer him back into that circle. Now right now he's going around with his nose maybe a hair on the outside, and his head's kind of stuck in there. I'm not really worried about that. What I don't want to be doing is picking on him, trying to fix all manner of things while ever he's inside this circle. Okay, while he's inside this circle, I'm going to leave him alone. See, he just cuts in here. I'm not worried about that because he's inside the circle. He goes outside the circle, I will steer him back inside the circle. Now, last time he cut in around there, what's he going to do now? He said, well, that didn't work so well. Let me go over here and have a look. Oh, no, he's starting to turn. He's still turning. Very good. And he goes, no, I think I might go back over this way. The barn's over this way. I go, no. There's pressure over there. There's no pressure over here. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, maybe I might go out this side and have a look and see if there's any pressure. And he comes out here, and I go, no, there's some pressure out there too. And he goes, oh, hang on. Well, there's pressure over there. And hang on, there's pressure over there. Maybe I'll turn left here. There we go. Now, that's an interesting phenomenon right there. Now that cone got moved, so it's actually on the inside of that. But see what his head's doing right now? Now he's outside that circle. I'm going to steer in. I want to talk about his head here for a second, because usually when horses get their bodies and their mind going in the same place, they start to do that right there. And you saw what he's like before. He kind of canters around with his head stuck in here a little bit, only because he's thinking about going somewhere different than where he's going. But once those horses get to where their brain and their body are matching up, they really start to relax their head down like that. Now, a lot of people think, well, what do you do to those reining horses to make them put their heads down? For me, I would say the biggest part of what makes those reining horses put their heads down is they start using their bodies efficiently. And right here, he's starting to use his body efficiently, and his brain and his body are going the same place at the same time. And there you go, I think he's just loped a circle and hanging his head whole at the same time. It's very, very simple. So he's leaving it again. I'm going to steer him back into the middle, leave him alone. What he does after I steer him in the middle, I don't care. He goes out, he's going to run over that cone. He goes outside, I'll steer him back into the middle. So now I've kind of got cones scattered all over the place. Some are further out than they were and some are further in than they were, but you can see he's starting to change where he goes and just kind of hunt this circle a little bit. And it's a little bit like, you know, a minute ago when he started going around here and hanging his head down, it's a little bit like a really good cutting horse. When they get really intent on what they're doing and get their body all organised, their head hangs down. There you go, but now he's just cruising around there. And you might notice this whole time I've been riding forward. I'm not looking over there. I'm not trying to influence him with my body. I'm trying to teach him to want to circle as opposed to teach him to go where I'm telling him to go. It'd be the same as working a cow. You're trying to teach him to work the cow, not work the person riding her. Let's steer him out here again. You know, I did a clinic one time in Australia, and there's a lady there, and I said, what do you want to work on? Now, he's starting to get this circle right here. If he stays hooked in this circle right here, I might just sit and let him stop. And what I'd probably do, because he was an equal opportunity horse, like he went out this side, he went out this side, he went out a number of different sides, I'm probably going to rest him in the middle. And we'll get to another episode later on, but one of the principles of training is choosing where you rest your horse, but that's a whole nother story. I'll let him rest. So that's a wrap on our first episode. Be sure to join us next time when we investigate more of the principles of training.